Daily, Nathan Zegura and Jason Gibbs. Gibby with you here on a Monday from the Cross Country Mortgage Campus in Berea. Beau, the fam, living the dream. I've seen some pictures. I know that Bootsy is eating some of the most expensive Apple Jacks anybody's ever eaten. I have not yet got an update on whether or not he's gotten to go on the slides, but you got to be happy to be the Bishops and to say we got out of Cleveland right as we got pelted with snow over the weekend in late March, which I'm sorry, folks, I'm not here for that. Not here for that kind of wintry mix. And while I was quite disappointed to not have a white Christmas, I was also disappointed that for the lovely Miss K's birthday on Sunday, we had a white birthday when nobody was looking for that. We were looking to be outside having the time of our lives. And yet, there was snow all over the place, Gibby.
It was not a great weekend for the weather.
No. And
no.
In fact, on Friday nights, I made my way out to the Tadmore Shrine.
What the heck is that? In
Akron or Canton, somewhere out in that area, for a little Absolute Intense Wrestling. Got to take in a little local wrestling show. But that was when the weather started to get bad. And I was with a good friend of mine, and we were driving out there. And within, and this is not an exaggeration, within about a 1 minute stretch on the freeway when we got out, I think you go 8 and then you're on 77 out there. We saw like 4 or 5 accidents in the span of a minute. Cars spinning out, just losing control. We saw one car that just lost complete control on the road and tried to correct, and it corrected so hard, I guess, on their wheel that the front axle snapped, which I had never seen before. So, like, the wheels were spun out through the front of the car. And we're just like, we looked at each other like, what's going on? Because it just had hit 32, so I guess everything was just ice central. Unfortunately, we made it, as did many tremendous wrestling fans. Got to see my good buddy Matt Cardona in the main event there. Josh Bishop, Wes Barkley. It was the Rip City Shooters. Got the big dub. So that was fun. But that road and this weather at this point of the year, it felt treacherous. And my buddy that I was with, he had just changed his snow tires off to his summers. My mom's, the official Nana of CBD, had just changed her snow tires off into her summers, and then we got hit with this. I still have my snow tires on.
I think you got to keep them till, it pains me to say this, like mid-April.
But that's outrageous.
What we had last year, it snowed like at the end of April. It snowed like the week before the draft, remember?
It's awful. It's rotten.
It sucks.
I haven't gotten to put a golf ball in the air yet, and that to me is just.
Well,
it's a disgrace. Have you?
I would say tomorrow, but the weather's going to suck.
Oh, of course it is.
Like Wednesday, rain and 68. Okay, well that doesn't do you any good.
Well, you said rain, right? Yeah, doesn't. None of this does any good. So, weather ridiculous.
The weather is not like. I would much rather have this happen during the week and have my weekends be 68, 70 degrees.
Yeah, same.
We had a couple of those in early March. Could use a couple more right now. Not great. So Bishop didn't have any trouble getting out. I never heard from him.
No. He sent me pictures of that beautiful blue skies, white sandy beaches, turquoise waters.
I just wonder how
the sun,
getting everybody through.
Apparently, it's worked very well. They're having the time of their lives.
The airport Friday was just. I dropped my kid off at like 5 a.m. She was going on a weekend of college visits, and it was awful. Like the airport
Friday
had like 5,000 people in it at 5 a.m.
Well, that's when it's the craziest.
Yeah,
that's when all the flights
of course
are.
It
but
is.
I'll tell you what, that Friday felt like it was a week.
Fairly confident the last 2 weeks felt like a year.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But so we've gotten through, and so we had a wonderful birthday celebration for Miss K on Sunday. And then
I believe you've had a birthday weekend
for her. Oh, yeah.
On social
She's
correctly.
having having time of her life. We had a nice dinner out on Thursday, and then a beautiful dinner on was that on Friday? Yeah. So I went Saturday. Saturday's the day that I went to the show. See, I have so much going. It just is.
It's a lot, right?
It's a lot. Yeah. Friday we had a great meal at the Trout Club. And the House in Ireland I got, thanks to my good friend Mr. Feudy, I got to taste the best whiskey I've ever had in my life. And I even said it to Beau, and Beau was fired up about it. A Redbreast 27. So I told the Hoff, said, while you're over there, you need to find this. So it is Irish
what does the number have to do with it?
27 years in a barrel. Smooth.
Probably I'm not going to have that same appreciation.
Delightful.
I'm just going to shoot it.
No, you would absolutely would not. You would not. Okay, right now you sound like my good friend Vince Cotty, who somebody bought him a bottle to thank him for some of the things he was doing out in California of Don Julio 1942, and he's like, I just take shots. I'm like, no, you would not shoot this. Believe me, you would. I
mean, there would be ramifications, but
I guarantee
that's
you
what I would end up doing.
No, have it neat. You have it neat. You don't need anything. It's so smooth. You don't need to shoot. It is delicious. It's a delight. Citrus notes. Kayla's like, I think I taste some pine. Then we found the official tasting notes on it or whatever. There was some pine cones. She's like, I knew it. Just an absolute delight. And then, Saturday, some great wrestling action.
Yesterday was the official birthday.
And yesterday was the birthday. Yeah.
The whole fam get together?
Everybody got together. We had it was a Sunday fun day brunch, and then I grilled up steaks for everybody at night. It was awesome. And then, just when you think what more could happen have transpired over the last few days, I get into bed, and Miss K was ready for her slumber, and all of a sudden, my phone's going bonkers. Twitter is ablaze. The slap heard around the world.
I was not watching.
Okay, so I was not watching the Oscars at all. I just saw it on social media. It's everywhere. My first thought upon seeing it initially was, and again, I'm a wrestling fan, so I thought this must be a work.
Maybe it's a ruse between the two of them.
Yes, this is something that is planned. And then you get a hold of, and I don't know why they cut it off in America, but in Australia, in Japan,
I'll tell you probably why.
You were able to watch the whole kit and caboodle, and after seeing the whole kit and caboodle, boy, it felt awfully real to me.
I would gonna say it's real. It's very real.
It felt awfully real. I mean, the vitriol and the anger, and he is a tremendous actor. He won the Academy Award, and also on a night when he was going to win the Academy Award, not that he didn't know that ahead of time, but I don't think he would have wanted everybody to be talking about his slap rather than his Academy Award win. And unfortunately, I think it overshadowed everything about the Oscars. Not that I was interested, to be perfectly honest, to be totally clear about it, but that's all anybody's talking about. It is probably going to be the most memed thing. It's in the running to be the most memed thing of this year already because everybody's having a field day with it. And, of course, everybody's applying it to whatever's going on in their own world. There are tons of Browns versions of this Will Smith slap on Chris Rock. It was just stunning. It was a stunning thing to see.
He cracked him good.
He did, but I mean, and I realize a slap is so disrespectful, but just kind of because and I think it was a joke. Everybody knows that there are going to be jokes. There was some insensitivity based on what Jada Pinkett Smith is dealing with, and for the reason that her hair looked the way that it did. So certainly some insensitivity there, but that was, I mean, you've heard people take a lot on the chin in terms of jokes at either the Oscars or roasts or anything, and I've never seen that in all my days. Never seen that.
So at first, I felt like he was laughing a little bit and then his wife, after the comment about his wife in G.I. Jane 2, which I was like, you might have gone a little too far. She stopped laughing. He still was kind of like, and then all of a sudden he's up on stage and
it felt like she was like, you're not going to let him say that about me, are you?
I guess I'm not. No.
It felt like there may have been a call to action that we weren't privy to, but act he did. Act he did, and that was stunning.
I
tweet me. I'm curious. I want everybody who's listening right now, tweet me, and I want to know if you guys think that this was real or not.
Oh, it's real.
I think so. But think about, and somebody made the point on Twitter, I think it may have been Cousin Sal who said this, or somebody else that I was reading, but think about how famous you've got to be able to do that. He walked up there, he smacked him, and then you've got in a commercial that's not on television, but people had cell phones in there, where you see like Bradley Cooper and Denzel
got in and
trying to calm him down, which again makes me think that it is very real because that part wasn't ever shown on TV. It's just it's a stunning thing, and it's so funny. As I was walking the office today, I saw Miss Kay, and she was like, "Did you see this?" I said, "Yeah, I've watched it about 1,000 times already. I've dissected it frame by frame."
The amazing thing is, the guy does it. He's not kicked out. He's given arguably one of the top 3 awards of the night an hour later.
And gives a very interesting speech. Quite interesting 5-minute speech full of tears and emotions. And, I thought it was because that so overshadowed everything that was going on. And then he's giving his speech, and he won it for his portrayal of Richard Williams in King Richard. And you have Venus and Serena in the crowd, and it was surreal. It was a surreal moment. And probably going to be one of the most talked about Oscars moments of all time. Because that's, quite frankly, what it was. That's what we just saw, and it was stupefying. But yeah, hit me up at Nathan Zegura. I'm curious.
What are you doing at the after show parties? Because here's what you got to understand.
Apparently, it's all anybody was talking about.
When I was lucky enough to go to the Grammys, like the Grammys and like the Oscars, I mean, they end at 8:00 out on the West Coast.
Yep.
So then it's party time, and you're out till all hours of the night. And I just feel like this had to be the biggest buzzkill on the entire evening in L.A. and Hollywood. Because what are you going to talk about?
I mean, everybody's talking about that. People were saying it cast a pall over the entire Oscars. So I've got so far real, and then somebody said it looks like he braced for it. I think he braced for it. WWE stuff for ratings. I just don't think. So here's what I don't get. If it was a rating stunt, you've got to like advertise. Nobody's going to watch the Oscars next year to see if somebody gets slapped for making a joke. And I think it, in fact, has overshadowed. Lots of times after the Oscars, I will learn about movies that I didn't know anything about. I don't know anything that happened at the Oscars other than this slap. So I don't think it was good for the Oscars. I don't think it's going to make more people watch the Oscars.
No, because you're probably going to lock it down a little bit more. I mean, maybe the days of the comedians playing host.
So people say there's like these frame-by-frame stuff where it's like, look like he braced for it. D.B. Cooper says that.
Real,
and I see that, but I think he saw himself getting slapped. And what do you do? Like, you don't just sit there and like have no reaction. See a guy cock his hand back.
Chris Rock, the one bit of credit I will give him is if you get smacked like that, it looked like he was ready to come up swinging with the right hand. Like the right hand almost clenches into a fist, and he composes himself. And
so here's an interesting theory. He says, I think Will got up when Rock said that was a nice one, meaning he could have said something about their marriage situation, which had not been in the best and been in the media. And maybe that's when he was like going to like shut that down. Just, again, an absolutely shocking thing. My guy Hampton Champ, he says 100% fake, like he was bracing for it. I think he's bracing for it because you see it's coming. Like anybody, even if something wasn't expected at the last second, if you see it come here, you're gonna start to brace for it. Like that's just human nature. So
my buddy says, not good for the Oscars. What are you talking about currently? But like tomorrow, will we be talking about this? No. Unless something comes of it and someone, if Chris Rock files charges against him, which Chris Rock's not going to do that.
No. People are.
I believe Will Smith might have done his own damage on his future career.
I
don't know.
I don't think they're going to be stunningly, in my opinion, I don't think there'll be any ramifications for it at all. Oh, God, Jay Natty, tremendous. Yes, he made one. I just retweeted it. Zegura in the Will Smith side of it with I'll have the salmon on the other side of it. That's tremendous. Good job by you, Jay Natty. Fantastic. I just, again, think it was – I thought it was definitely real. I thought it was totally unnecessary, out of left field, and it's just wild. Eric Francis says, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm going to believe him. So Eric says ABC canceled their exclusive after-party TV show afterwards. So there you go. Just, again, a stunning thing. Kelly Michelle saying, very disrespectful. And he did kind of in his speech say, when King Richard and the role that he played, he stood up for his family, was willing to fight for his family, and maybe I just kind of turned into, Richard for a second there. Like, at no point, correct me if I'm wrong, but at no point he was like, sorry, Chris. Like,
no, there was no apology.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry.
There was nothing, especially even in the commercial break.
The great Drew walking by.
Was not happening, and it was – here's the thing that made me go, well, this is real. When he sat back down and started dropping 4-letter bombs about keeping my wife out of your blank jokes. Yeah. Like, okay. This isn't script like this isn't a scripted deal because you're not dropping a bomb on network TV at night at the Oscars. You don't want to be that person. So that's when I'm like, well, yeah, this is very, very real, and the fallout from this will be interesting to see what, if anything, happens.
It's crazy. It was just absolutely bonkers. And like I said, I think I watched it.
Yeah.
1,000. I think I probably watched it 1,000 times. Yeah. And I am just stupefied for it. It's amazing. It's an absolutely amazing. And at that moment brought us Jay Natty 91's tremendous meme right there. I told you it's the most. Look, I know that crazy stuff happens all the time, so it's hard to say right now that this will end up being the most memed thing of 2022. But like right now, it's in the lead. It's got a healthy lead. I mean, you think about all of the crazy stuff that has happened, and we're at the end of March. And I'm just going to leave it from there's a war going on in this world right now. Take it to the NFL. Tyreek Hill's changed teams. Russell Wilson has changed teams. Deshaun Watson has changed teams. You've got Tom Brady retired and unretired. Tom Brady unretired 2 weeks ago. It feels like that happened 5 years ago with all the stuff that has happened since then. Davante Adams is on the Raiders. Tyreek Hill's a Miami Dolphin. Deshaun is a Cleveland Brown. Russ is in Denver.
Amari Cooper is
a Cleveland Brown. Brady is unretired. Matt Ryan's an Indianapolis Colt. I mean,
which was funny because the Tide commercials with
Matty
him
Ice
and Gordon Ramsay, he's wearing his Atlanta jersey.
Well,
and you're like, I saw it last night. I was like, well, might want to be updating that.
They're gonna have to update that. Just an absolute. Some people come in and say they think it was fake. If it was fake. What I want to know from somebody that really believes that it was, if you believe it was fake, what was the benefit of it? What was the upside of it? The guy won the Academy Award that night. And now more people are talking about the slap than the fact that he won the award. Like when you're an actor, you work your whole life. Obviously, you want to be a commercial success, but you want to be you want some critical acclaim, and the ultimate critical acclaim is to win the Oscar. And he gets none of that. He's second. I mean, people are going to talk about the fact he slapped Chris Rock. And then somebody said, well, he wouldn't have done it if it was The Rock. Probably true.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a career choice. That's a choice to end your life.
That
doesn't end well.
No. There's got to be, don't you think at some point, there's got to be some type of a post. Rock's going to have to make public comments on this. Chris Rock is going to say something at some point.
Yeah, I think this is in the hands of nothing but PR people.
Yeah, Mel Kiper Jr., he says Alvin Kamara got arrested after the Pro Bowl, and that was like 20 years ago. True. Fact.
Yeah, it is. It's been a month. By the way, we were at the Combine a month ago. That feels like it was 2 years ago.
That is wild. Seth Ryan says, you got to remember the world is making up for 2 years of no being able to go anywhere by going even farther off the rails. I mean,
I did read something like that where the point was made like everybody's got a short fuse these days. Post-COVID,
no doubt.
like fuses are not long.
No.
And people aren't
Peace and
going to
love.
tolerate things.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
That's out the window.
The 2024 NFL Draft
Yeah, what is that?
has been awarded to Detroit. So has Hard Knocks. We'll talk about all of that. We've got some Browns news as well that happened after we got off the air regarding Jacoby Brissett. We'll talk about that. We are going to do, we've got some sound from head coach Kevin Stefanski down at the owners' meetings in West Palm Beach for you. We've got some news and notes from the owners' meetings. I mentioned we'll dive into this Hard Knocks. That's coming up. We go around the league. We've got 2 o'clock part 2 of Stefanski from the owners' meetings in West Palm. We've just got answers. They were in a big marble room, so we did the best to bring you that sound for you there. And then at 2:30, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our 2022 opponents, see what they've done in free agency, who they've added, who they've lost, because we play the NFC South, and then kind of take a look at what some of the mock drafts are predicting for those teams on our schedule. And it's just kind of another look around the league and see what moves, who's gotten better, who's gotten worse, and how that could affect the Browns and their schedule this year. The good news is pretty much the exodus of talent, without other than the fact that Tom Brady returned, unretired, has been everybody leaving the NFC for the AFC or people just moving around in the AFC. But like the all AFC team versus the all NFC team right now, which would still be, your all NFC team's still very good, don't get me wrong. But you might be 3 or 4 deep at every position on the AFC, whereas on the NFC you do not have that same depth. The AFC is absolutely loaded. Absolutely loaded. We also got the great coaches picture, which is one of the more fun things every single year to go ahead and go through and dissect. I know there's already been some good commentary on that, and so we got a lot going on here on a Monday. We've gotten through a lot of it. Just one last time, in case you do want to check out the show I went to, AIW Wrestling on Twitter. And you can go to independentwrestling.tv, and you can actually watch the show.
So did you call the final match?
I did a couple of them on there, Gibbe. I was able to do a couple of them. I had an absolute blast. It could not have been more fun. And I saw there is some crazy stuff. I will say that. There's some crazy stuff that went down on there. But, yeah, the main event was the major players, which are Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, who were together in the WWE. We've won the tag titles at WrestleMania, 2-time Raw Tag Team Champions, 1-time WWE Tag Team Champions against the Rip City Shooters, Joshua Bishop, Wes Barkley. Wes Barkley and his fam's always in attendance. Cleveland kid, great, love it. So it was, absolute blast. And again, independentwrestling.tv, and you can watch all their events. They've got go watch Bishop against Matthew Justice from 2019 at the Odeon, and you will see something that might make your head explode, because it's one of the craziest things I've seen. I've seen a lot of wrestling, folks. A lot. All right, when we come back here on Cleveland Browns Daily, we'll talk Brissett, and we'll hear from Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski from the owners' meetings in West Palm. That's next on CBD. OBM, Ohio Business Machines, preferred copier provider to the Cleveland Browns, who have all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. On Friday, after our show went off of the air, the Browns officially announced the signing of quarterback Jacoby Brissett. Brissett's appeared in 60 career games with 37 starts, completed 727 of his 1,208 passes, that's 60.2%, for 7,742 yards and 36 touchdowns. He's also added 653 yards rushing and 13 scores. Originally a third-round pick out of the Originally a third-round pick by the New England Patriots out of NC State, Brissett has played for the Pats in 2016. He's been a Colts starter for 2 seasons in his run there from 2017 to 20 and filled in for the Dolphins last year, starting 5 games, finishing with 1,283 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. Said head coach Kevin Stefanski, and I quote, Jacoby is a vet with the team, and with that, he brings a lot of valuable experience to not just our quarterback room, but to our whole team. He is a smart, tough competitor who knows the work it takes to win in this league. The backup quarterback position is one that is extremely valuable. The need to stay sharp in the meeting room and on the practice field and be ready at a moment's notice. Jacoby is a pro and has proven to be efficient when called upon and effective. I'm excited about bringing him to our team. And so, yeah, the Browns bringing in Jacoby Brissett, who's played well for the Indianapolis Colts. Guy who has, basically for much of his career about a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and he had his best season there with the Indianapolis Colts a couple of seasons ago. And so he brings you that veteran stability, and he's a guy that, should the need arise for Brissett to start some games for you, you feel very comfortable that he is going to be able to come in and get the job done. And I go back for his career, 36 passing touchdowns, 17 interceptions. As I said, that's better than 2-to-1. As a starter in Indy over 2 years, 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, adding 500 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns on the ground. And he's coming off his best PFF grade season of his career last year. So, again, a great get, a great value, and great insurance given some of this uncertainty surrounding Deshaun Watson's availability for the start of this season. So I think a nice move there. And, Brissett came in, and, nobody was happier about that than Anthony Walker Jr. They actually even flew up here together. And they're great friends from their days in Indianapolis. So great guy, great veteran addition, I think, to the Cleveland Browns, and just a nice quarterback to have on your roster in the event that you are going to need him at some point this season.
Well, and we're all going to be monitoring the Deshaun Watson situation, and if the league is going to impose anything, they're doing their own investigation and due diligence right now. But in general, you have to have 2 quarterbacks.
Yes.
Especially if you're a contender.
Yes.
You have to have that second guy, JIC.
Just in
case.
Because that's right.
At the end of the day, 17 games is a long season. And inevitably, you could miss a game or 2 or even 3. And how important are those 3 games? I mean, we saw how important it was for us.
Yeah, it is very important. And so when you think about from how competitive it is in this conference, we've talked about 13 teams absolutely are looking at their roster saying that they're going to the playoffs this year, when we know only 7 of those can do it. Number two, when it's that competitive, you one game here, one game there, head-to-head game here, head-to-head game there with somebody that you're competing with to make the playoffs could be massive. And so they have the ability that somebody can step in and fulfill that role for you, and when you need them, and hopefully get you through, get you a W. That is what you're looking for. And I think that is what is so very, very important, and why it's good to have a guy with the track record, the success, and somebody who I think he takes care of the football. 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions in his 2 seasons in Indy as the starter. That's what you need. Take care of the football. Jacoby Brissett's a guy that can manage the game. He can extend drives with his legs. He's tremendous in short yardage situations, so that's kind of another nice little weapon to have there. And he can, I think, effectively lead this football team 2 victories. And we still have work to do, obviously, but now, the Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett quarterback room on the field, you feel very, very good about that. And Brissett also brings to your organization leadership off the field. He was the 2020 Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the Indianapolis Colts. He represented that team. And the Walter Payton Man of the Year, as you all know, is a very prestigious award given out to the player in the NFL who best, does the best work in their respective community and is considered an incredibly prestigious honor. So prestigious that just being the nominee allows you to wear that patch on your jersey for the rest of the season, and winning it is something that goes a long, long way in the National Football League, and just the respect of everybody in the league and the players, coaches, leadership, everybody. So you're getting, I think, a very valuable piece for this football team in Jacoby Brissett. And I know that I believe he's coming up on a BPA. He will be featured on one of the best podcast availables with the Ibs boys, if you will. So something to look out for here in the near future. I don't know when it's going to happen, but that's what I think is in the cards. So it is, given that there is some uncertainty at the quarterback spot as it relates to Deshaun Watson's availability for the things that we've gone through ad nauseum. And again, if you want to hear our real deep thoughts on it, first half hour of Monday of last week, then you can listen to Friday's show, which featured the press conference, and then our reaction to that press conference right after it on Friday. So, but getting Brissett, I think, a very solid move, and to give you some stability in the event that you do have to navigate some games without Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the Browns are positioning themselves in the event something does come down the pipe. I think that the Browns are being proactive. And we'll see how this, again, all plays out, because I don't think any of us know. And right now, it's March 28th.
Yep.
We are months away from this starting and this season really getting going. We're going to have the offseason. The players will be back in the building in a few weeks. But games don't start. Training camp doesn't start for quite a few.
Quite a few. And guess what? Unlike some years past where there was who's here for the voluntary, who's not here for the voluntary, I feel like pretty good that we're going to have everybody we want to be here for those voluntary workouts. And we were talking about Jacoby Brissett. Let's get into some of these sound bites from West Palm Beach, where head coach Kevin Stefanski is down there at the owners' meetings. The first one is about signing Jacoby Brissett.
We really value that backup quarterback position. I certainly do. I know Andrew does. It's an important role. That person has to be ready to get in there and win you a ball game at a moment's notice. So having a guy like Jacoby who's been through it, who's started a lot of football games, really a smart young man. Just getting to know him when we brought him in throughout the process, and I think we got a really good one.
Yeah, it's an important position, as you talked about. As
exactly.
I talked about, I mean, that's as plain as the English can be. It is a very important position. It is a very, very critical one. You need to be ready to have your backup quarterback play a few games. And in the Browns' case, it takes on even more importance given what we talked about. One of the things that's just been overshadowed due to the magnitude of acquiring Deshaun Watson is the addition of Amari Cooper to this Browns roster. Here's what Kevin Stefanski had to say about the talented number 1 receiver.
Very excited to add Amari. I think the first thing you notice when you meet Amari is just how physically, how big he is and how imposing he can be. And then you see that in his play. He's physical with the ball in his hands. He can snap open versus man coverage. He's been a productive player in his career. He's made a lot of plays, someone that we're going to be counting on. Really excited to get to work with him.
Is he a number 1 receiver? Looking at that way in your offense?
Yeah, and I think whatever you denote those guys, we don't really spend too much time worrying about that, but he's definitely somebody that we can count on in those big moments, third down, red zone, when you need somebody to come up and play.
I think that's the thing. Like, there's not a specific place you have to line up a number 1 wide receiver per se.
No.
You can line them up anywhere. And
you'll move them all around.
There's a team and a coaching staff that can take advantage of his skill set and put him anywhere on the field, it's probably this one.
The thing with Amari Cooper is you have the flexibility. He can play inside. He can play outside. Right. You're going to be able to move him all around, get the best matchups, and be able to disguise what you want. You want to have people I think forgetting that, Anthony Schwartz is a rookie. We knew it was going to take some time coming out of Auburn, but you've got incredible speed in Schwartz. You have got Donovan Peoples-Jones. You got Cooper. You got Demetric Felton. And the Browns are not done at that position. Draft, free agency, maybe even both. The Browns are not done at that spot, but it's a room that's starting to come together. And just the notion that you're able to get a guy like Amari Cooper, I think, is very, very big for this offense. And as pointed out on Twitter, and it's also true that Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson are going to be able to run a very similar style offense. And so how does that offense change when you have some mobility from the quarterback? Here's what Kevin Stefanski had to say about taking what Deshaun Watson does well and working it into and developing the offense around him.
It's something that we've already started looking at and working as a staff on. I think I mentioned it the other day that there's probably more similarities than differences. It's just a matter maybe of frequency and volume, if you will. So there's things that Deshaun has done in his career that we have done in the last couple of years that he'll be very comfortable with. There's a few other things that maybe we haven't featured that we want to do more of now that Deshaun is our quarterback and really match what we're doing to his skill set.
So in talking to people around the league, what they said with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, there are no limitations on what Kevin Stefanski can do in this offense. He can run any style of offense that he wants. He can continue, the outside zone. You want to go straight drop back passing game, no problem. You want to throw vertically, no problem. You want to throw intermediate, no problem. You want to get the boots and the rollouts that you already do, no problem. You want to do some RPOs where the quarterback at times has the option to keep the ball, no problem. There are no restrictions on what you can do with Deshaun Watson. And he was asked, how does the offense need to evolve with Watson at quarterback because of the fact that now there are no limitations?
That's our job as coaches, year in and year out. As your roster evolves, you better evolve. If you have different running backs, different wide receivers, you certainly, when you're talking about the quarterback position, you better do what that player does best. That's what we want to do, ultimately. Had a lot of really good conversations with Deshaun from a football perspective with the coaches. I think we have a good plan moving forward, but that'll be an evolution.
And I think that got lost in the grand scheme of things on Friday because there was a lot to digest on Friday.
No doubt.
There were a lot of things going on, but Kevin Stefanski was asked at one point in the press conference about Deshaun Watson, and he said we're going to build an offense around what this guy does best. And I think that a lot of times coaches are like, this is my system, you have to conform.
No.
That has never been Kevin Stefanski's way since day one. And I think that, as you said, there's nothing that Deshaun Watson can't do from a football standpoint.
No.
So, it really has opened up a lot of things here potentially for this offense.
Yeah, there are no limitations. And so, you always want to be evolving. You always want to be adapting to the game, and you always want to be putting your players in the most advantageous positions.
Ago at the combine.
And he said that even after the first year when he was the reigning coach of the year. He said, we always have to evolve. There's nothing is good enough to be static. If you're being static, you're being passed by. And so this is an opportunity, I think, though, to really evolve. But that's going to take buy-in. That's going to take commitment. That's going to take everybody being here as soon as they are allowed to be here. And Kevin Stefanski was asked if Deshaun Watson will be at the voluntary workouts when they start in April.
I do expect Deshaun to be there April 19th with everybody else. And, Mary Kay, I haven't had an offseason yet with the players. Year one was COVID. Year two, as we know, was a little bit different. So looking forward to having a normal offseason.
So April 19th sounds like we'll have some workouts going on here.
That would be the start, I'm guessing, of that voluntary period and some of the OTAs where this Browns team can start to get moving and start to install this offense and get everybody starting to be on the same page for what should be a very, very talented group on both sides of the football. Kevin Stefanski was asked about the tight end position and if they could pivot to new groupings depending on how many tight ends they have.
First of all, I think Austin Hooper's a good football player. I think Tennessee got a good player. For us, I think that's really what comes down to get through the free agency, get through the draft, see what we have on our roster, and then plan accordingly. So if we don't add another tight end, so to speak, we're going to pivot more to 12 personnel, 11 personnel, just basically who we have.
So I think, as we talked about the lack of limitations, we talked, if you remember when John McClain was on, he said that he believes that you will have Deshaun Watson can make any receiver better. He stresses the defense. I really think that you're going to see a lot more 11 personnel. You saw so much 12, 13 personnel. I don't think you're going to see that nearly as much. Now, you will still see 2 tight end sets. There's no doubt. But I don't know that you're going to see the 3 tight end sets that we did because you're going to want to have your talented receivers on the field. You're going to have a quarterback that is going to be able to stress teams. And the person that's going to benefit from a lot of this, who already is a stud and a star, and along with Kareem Hunt, is Nick Chubb. Because you're going to see lighter boxes now. You just are. You're going to see lighter boxes because teams are going to really have to respect your ability to throw the football. Now, one thing that would warm my heart, I know it would warm Beau's heart. I even think it would warm the heart of Gibbe. The notion.
Bold statement, Cotton.
That I know. I said even. I didn't say definitively. That even the great Jarvis Landry still could be in play to come back and return to the Cleveland Browns. And this is something that I know our fans are excited about. I would be excited about. Everybody I talk to, is Jarvis coming back? Is Jarvis coming back? I don't know. Do I want him to come back? You're darn right I do. I love Jarvis Landry. I love everything he stands for as a football player. I love everything he stands for as a Cleveland Brown. I know he loves this city. I know he loves this team, this organization. Sometimes business decisions are made that are difficult, but every day that goes by that he is not on another team, that means the door is still open for him to return to the Cleveland Browns. And this is something that is being discussed so much that even at the owners' meetings, this was asked of Kevin Stefanski. Could Jarvis come back to the Cleveland Browns?
Mary Kay, we got to let the process play out for all of those players. As I've mentioned before, you guys know, I love Jarvis as a person, I love Jarvis as a player, but we got to let all of that play out.
All right. Door not closed. Door not closed. Going to let it all play out.
Still some work to do.
Still plenty of work to do. And we'll have more from Kevin Stefanski down there at the owners' meetings coming up at 2 o'clock in our Sound Bites.
He almost talked for 35 minutes today down there.
Fill us up. Fill it up, Gibbe. Fill it up. As you guys can hear, the audio it is a challenge down there. There's nothing that could be done about that. They're in a big room. Every coach is in there. I'm told lots of marble around, which, a lot of echoes.
The logistics of this are not ideal. A lot of people are talking. There will be some others from our organization talking. But meetings happen and pressers happen in hallways. They don't happen with backdrops and mult boxes and quality audio. It is a free-for-all and a scrum, for lack of a better term.
It is. But our guy AP down there helping bring us this great sound. All right, when we come back, some quick notes from around the league, and we will talk about that when we return here on Cleveland Browns Daily. Buying or selling a home with Howard Hanna Real Estate Services is always a winning strategy. If you plan to make a move this season, we've got you covered. Because at Howard Hanna, every day is game day. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. Some news from the NFL. Number one, the Lions. Next up for Hard Knocks. And then Detroit gets the draft in 2024. Big day for Detroit. But the Lions and Hard Knocks, Gibbe? Oh, baby. Kneecap biting.
Well, there's a few people over there that are worth watching.
No doubt. Dan Quinn. We got our guy John Dorsey. I mean, we'll get some of the full Dorse over there. It's going to be I like that. I like that call. That's a team that, if to my knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong about it, but I don't recall ever seeing on Hard Knocks before.
I don't think I've seen them on Hard Knocks.
I like
and
it.
I feel like that they've had a quietly pretty good offseason.
Yeah, I think it's an offense with some weapons. DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who had the great rookie season for them. They bring in a DJ Chark. Yeah, there's some talent there with that team.
They're going to have, the number 2 pick in the draft?
Yeah, a lot of people think maybe Aiden Hutchinson could stay in the state of Michigan, go to the Lions there. Could they end up taking a quarterback at 2? I don't know. You got Jared Goff there right now. Going to be interesting. Absolutely interesting, to say the very least, to see how this is going to go and how it's going to play out. But I'm interested. That's got me intrigued.
Well, the coaching staff
Knocks.
alone.
The coach, yes,
I mean,
am.
You don't think he's going to play up to the cameras?
There's no doubt. It feels in many ways like an absolutely perfect mix. It feels like exactly what
with Spielman
you
in
want.
The front office, there's a lot of storylines there.
Oh yeah, a ton of storylines.
I wonder if we play them in the we don't know the preseason opponents.
We don't know yet, but this is a very, very. This is it's going to be great. It's wonderful. I'm excited to see how that plays out, and then. The draft, as we said, will be in Detroit in 2024, which makes
I did not see that coming.
Me neither, but that definitely puts it on. That's close enough that we could consider doing some stuff from the draft.
All right.
It's close enough.
I think this is the one we would want to go to, not necessarily that one.
It's a drive. Just saying.
Great.
Just saying. Not a bad drive at all. We've all done it. We've busted there together, Gibby. Come on.
It's an awful bus ride.
Awful bus ride.
It is.
Really.
It's not a fun bus ride.
Just rotten. It really is. It is.
I am surprised with all the options. That is the one for the draft.
Yeah. I am too, but there it is. It's a good. That area downtown's good for it. That's why it's had Super Bowl there. I'm guessing it'll be at Ford Field.
I would think.
Yeah.
It's not. The area there is not around that stadium isn't great.
Yeah. All right. New draft caps are out. I don't know if you got a chance to see these.
You showed them to me right before we went on the air, but I feel like they suck every year.
There have been some good ones. Like, I can't be like off the top of my head, 2017, great draft cap. But I know that sometimes you look at them and you go, that's not great. Not ideal. That's what I would say is the case for this one.
There have not been a lot of stories coming out of the owners' meetings.
No, not a whole lot coming out of the owners' meeting, but there is some news in the broadcast world, which we had talked about, but Fox will be elevating Kevin Burkhardt to the number 1 NFL play-by-play announcer, replacing Joe Buck, and that means he will call 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls.
What a great gig that guy all of a sudden woke up to.
Absolutely. Was put in a lot of work.
Kevin Burkhardt's a very nice guy, and he's a pro's pro, and he's a guy who's truly worked his way up from the bottom, and happy for him because he's done some stuff with us on the radio network. Super nice guy, and I think that it's a good move. Was it the only move?
Well, we still don't know who's going to be joining him yet.
Yeah, but from a play-by-play standpoint at Fox, like. We had talked about Gus Johnson, but outside of Burkhardt, is there anybody else?
Right. No, that's going to be a very interesting Interesting to see that play out. We thought it would be Burkhardt, but who's going to be with him, I think, ultimately was the bigger question, and that's something that still remains, at least at this time, unanswered. A little bit of former Browns news. Former Browns linebacker and former Eagles linebacker Janard Avery, who can certainly rush the passer as a stand-up in a 3-4, is signing a one-year deal with the Steelers. That feels like a good fit. He's a close guy that's built like James Harrison, probably has been in the league since James Harrison. Obviously has not had that career, so let's not make a joke there, but Janard, very nice guy. When we had his time here, we were able to talk with him. But he is looks like he will be joining the Steelers on a one-year deal. All right, when we come back, part 2 of head coach Kevin Stefanski from the owners' meetings in West Palm. Plus, we'll take a look at the Browns' opponents in the AFC South this season. What have they done so far? We can tell you one, Tampa, they got their quarterback back. Atlanta, they lost their franchise quarterback, Matty Ice. Fun division. It feels like it's Tampa and everybody else, but we'll break that down and see what it means for the Browns on their schedule when they take on the NFC South or NFC South. This year. That's all coming your way here. Hour number 2 of Cleveland Browns Daily. Elk and Elk, serious lawyers for serious injuries. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio for your free case review. Elk and Elk is a proud partner of the Cleveland Browns. Gibby, I saw a video from Joe Holden, CBS 3 in Schuylkill County on Interstate 81, taking the visibility down to 0. And there was just a massive pileup. So, folks, as always, if it's out there and there, just please be safe. I feel very lucky because we were driving in some wild conditions, but it was nothing like that. That is just one of the craziest videos I've ever seen. I hope everybody in it is okay, but just very, very scary out there. We got part 2 now of Kevin Stefanski from the owners' meetings down in West Palm Beach. And one of the moves this offseason that, you get rid of an Iron Man. You get rid of the NFLPA president, a guy that has started, and played every snap for you since joining your organization, other than missing one game with COVID, and J.C. Tretter, as you're able to try to move some finances around. And you've got Nick Harris waiting in the wings. And Nick Harris started that game in Green Bay and played great. He was 2-time All Pac-12 center at Washington, the University of Washington, a guy who is, in his limited time here with the Browns has played well when called upon. That was his first game ever starting his natural position. Back in his rookie year, he got every snap in training camp, if you remember. Tretter was out, but then in the season, injuries late got him a start at guard. He had to come in at guard after Chris Hubbard went down against the Giants, and I believe he started against the Jets in that season where the Browns went to the playoffs. But now he is likely the team's starting center, is what Kevin Stefanski's had to say about the young man from Washington.
Yeah, I think that's what it looks like today. I'm very excited about Nick. When he's gotten in there, he's done a really nice job. He played mostly guard for us a couple of years ago. Got in there in that Green Bay game. I think you saw his skill set. Very intelligent player, plays very hard, athletic player. So excited about Nick.
He is athletic, and that's the key for the centers in this scheme. It's your ability to get off of those double-team blocks, get to the second level, to pull around at times, and we saw Harris do that against Green Bay. And if in that game, the Browns averaged like 9 yards a carry, ran for over 200 yards. So they have a lot of confidence in him. I can tell you this, he's been in here every day in the weight room, getting after it, putting in the work to get his body where it needs to be to undergo the rigors of being a starting center in the National Football League. But I can tell you the Browns have a lot of confidence in Nick Harris. Stefanski going back to the idea of adding a new quarterbacks, and he says, what are the steps you take to adapt an offense to a new quarterback?
Yeah, I think it starts with pulling apart what the quarterback you're bringing in does well. It's no different than thinking about some of the quarterbacks coming out in this draft. The teams that draft those players are going to cut up all of their tape and find out what concepts this quarterback sees well, what elements of the offense do we maybe not have that we need to research. And that's for us, in terms of Deshaun, taking it, putting together all the things that he's comfortable with, and then going to sit down with him, with our coaches, and let him talk through why he's comfortable with it. Because what we need to do is we need to understand the plays that he has 500 reps on, and he has rote memory about what to do on each one of those plays that maybe aren't a huge part of our offense. So if he's comfortable with it, we want to make sure that we transition that into our offense.
So what he said at the end there, I think, is very important, and I'll never forget that feature. I believe it was Peter King did it, where he sat down with Bruce Arians, and they went through a full week of game preparation with Carson Palmer, was the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals at that time. And
that game was against the Browns.
And it was against the Browns, yes,
yeah.
Indeed. And Carson Palmer had quite a good game, as I recall. But that's a big part of it. They say, here's what we do. What do you like? And I've talked with Kevin Stefanski. If the quarterback is not comfortable with a play, regardless of how well they think that play is going to work against the opponent, it's out. It's out. And you're going to go with the things that your quarterback is the most comfortable at, and typically those things often line up with the things they're the most proficient at. But that's the way it goes. You are not going to have things in your game plan that your quarterback is not comfortable with, because you need the quarterback to be comfortable so that he can execute effectively. And I think that is something that people, I don't know that they truly understand. I'd urge people to go back and find that article, because you read and basically when they go into especially the opening script, it's all stuff that the quarterback loves, that they love the concept. They love the throw. They love what they're going to be asked to do in the read, just that they are comfortable with that. And that is a huge part of putting together game plans for quarterbacks, is to get on the same page with them. It's a very collaborative process, and I think Kevin Stefanski is going to look, very forward to the opportunity to do that with Deshaun Watson. And as I mentioned, earlier, I got a chance to talk with Deshaun Watson, and he said in the meeting they were on that iPad together for an hour just talking ball and going through it. And I think Deshaun really enjoyed it. I know he did. He told me he really enjoyed it. I think Coach enjoyed it, and that's kind of that collaboration that is going to be critical for them to be able to have this offense operate at the level that you want. I mean, you got a quarterback coming in as a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's got the highest completion percentage in the history of the league for any quarterback who's thrown 15 passes, 67.8%. His quarterback ranks over 100 for his career. This is a unbelievably talented guy, which is how you end up in this position, and the contract that he's got, the picks that were given up, the trade that was made. And I think he understood from a football standpoint this was the best place to go, and not to mention it worked out pretty well for him, $230 million guaranteed. But I think that's a critical part of game planning that I'm not as sure people quite understand. I think that article with Peter King and Arians and Carson Palmer does the best job of kind of taking you behind that curtain and seeing really just how these things come to be and the collaboration that it takes.
And how all of that has evolved, and how there are some teams that still haven't evolved to that level that Kevin Stefanski and his crew are at, or Bruce Arians for that matter.
No, but it's critical.
It used to be, here's the offense, quarterback, you play in our offense, you do what we say, here are the plays, go execute them. To what it is now. I mean, it is, and it's not just the coach and the OC and the quarterback. It's a number of position coaches. It's other players that are helping and have an input. Yes, the quarterback and the OC or the play caller, whoever that is, have to be in sync. But if everybody's buying in, you get the max return for your investment.
You do, and that's the thing. It's all about maximizing the strengths, creating advantageous matchups, minimizing your own weaknesses, and then exploiting the weaknesses of your opponent and minimizing their strengths. That's game planning in a nutshell. How you go about doing it, that is that work, that collaborative process that from on our offensive staff, you've got 4 guys who have called plays in the league. You've got Bill Callahan working extensively on the run game, and he's so darn good at that. And you've got Chad O'Shea, you've got Alex Van Pelt, you have Stefanski, Drew Petzing now in the quarterback room, T.C. McCartney, who's been a quarterback coach, he's going to be now in the tight end room. Stump Mitchell is back in the building. It's great to see Stump walking around. That's how you get to be successful. Quality of coaches, but then working with the players who want to put in the work to have those conversations and get that. I'll look for it and see if I can't find that Carson Palmer article so that I can put it up for people. But I think it's a really fascinating one and gives a lot of insight into really how things go in the National Football League in terms of putting together a game plan and the level of thought and depth and collaboration and comfort that there must be for a quarterback for something to get into a game plan. All right, we're going to talk about the changes on to the wide receiver market in the past 2 seasons. We've already talked about what a doozy this offseason has been.
Maybe not.
Maybe we will not.
You guys are down.
Hospitals, we know that having virtual and in-person access to your primary
Nick, we
care
didn't go to
provider
break.
is a must.
Without setting limits on how much you're going to wager or how long you'll play is like a football team going into a game without a game plan. It's probably going to end up in a loss. So always set limits before you bet. Get more tips like this at keepitfunohio.com. All right, we had a little technical difficulty there. We are back now. We're going to go back to West Palm Beach head coach Kevin Stefanski, and he's talking about the changes to the wide receiver market over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah, quite a bit. And I think you see the salaries are going up, which is, God bless those guys, good for them. But you also see a lot of great young receivers coming to this game, and I think receivers, it feels like, are having an even more immediate impact on an offense than in previous years. I think they're coached up in college really well, and they're ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and you're seeing teams, look at the Minnesota Vikings. They traded a star receiver to get a first-round pick that they turned into a star receiver in Justin Jefferson. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but then now they have Jefferson at a much cheaper rate than Diggs is getting in Buffalo. But you're seeing big-time receivers also get traded for a bevy of draft picks. Devontae Adams did that. Tyreek Hill did that. I think we're going to see a first round in which you could see 6, 7, 8 wide receivers go in the first round, given all the needs and all the teams that have multiple picks. Receivers are incredibly important, massively important.
And I think you're seeing why a lot of the free agent wide receivers are out there are only able to get a 1-year deal, maybe even a 2-year deal at most. A lot of the free agent wide receivers, because of the wide receiver heavy draft last year and this year, the market for free agents isn't probably what it should be. And that's why I think the longer the Jarvis Landry situation goes on, in my opinion, maybe I'm just trying to will it, it maybe increases the opportunity for him to come back here.
Which would be, as you know,
I would love that.
Phenomenal. See, you would love it. I wasn't sure. It's beautiful.
Who wouldn't love that?
I know. Everybody would. But I think you're right. And the mega stars are always going to have a market. But you can get such high quality, and you're seeing more and more because more and more teams in college are running 3 receiver sets, 4 receiver sets, that these receivers are coming into the NFL ready to play. It used to be a receiver, you needed 3 years in the league before you could get your rookie receiver going. Not anymore. They can be impact players immediately in the NFL. Now, the receiver the Browns went out and got was Amari Cooper. That was the big move for the Browns this year, getting Cooper from the Dallas Cowboys. Kevin Stefanski talked about his conversations with Amari, and who? Theodore. Gave him some advice on how to get him to open up.
I had some good conversations with Amari. I have to tell you, I got a really good tip from Amari's high school teammate, his quarterback in high school, was a guy named Teddy Bridgewater. So Teddy said, ask Amari about Dade County football, and he'll open up, and it worked. So Amari's been great. I think he's excited to join the team. I think he's excited to get to work. And I'm looking forward to seeing him in April.
So
they played on the same team together?
Yeah, that to me is the biggest takeaway of that. So Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback on a high school football team with Amari Cooper as his receiver?
Yes, please.
I mean, they had to win the state title, right?
I would hope.
I'm going to look this
Someone's
up.
got some explaining to do if they didn't.
So he said Dade County. So Amari Cooper and Teddy Bridgewater were high school teammates. From Miami Northwestern was the high school that they went to. I mean, that is just an unbelievable thing. One-time teammates at Miami Northwestern Senior High School. Trying to see if they won. So they were only together. They were only together for 1 year. But that's incredible, right? I mean,
still, Cooper is probably one of the maybe the best weapon on the team.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt he was. But to have Cooper on the team with that type of a quarterback, that's wild. They went far in the playoffs with these elite players in the offense. Cooper was injured most of his junior year, still caught 4 touchdowns. In his senior season, he was unbelievable. Single season record, Under Armour All-American game, went to Alabama. But so I guess they did not win the state title. They went deep into the state playoffs, it says. I mean, there's a lot of talent in Florida. There's no doubt about that. But that's still that's an incredible thing. Incredible.
Agreed. That's a wow. And they didn't win it all.
No.
You're right. There's a lot of talent, but
there's a lot.
Two NFL superstars.
Yeah, wild. Speaking of Amari Cooper, Kevin Stefanski talked about Cooper's flexibility, something we talked about a little bit earlier, to play inside or outside in this offense.
I think Coop is versatile enough to play inside or out. We've had conversations about that. As it pertains to Jarvis, I can't get too far into it because that's just an unknown, and we'll see how that all plays out. Jarvis has made a bunch of plays for us inside. He's also made plays on the outside. So I think that just speaks to those two players, their versatility. I think that either one of those guys, they bring to your team the ability to play inside and out. They're not some of those receivers that can only play on the outside. They can play on the inside.
Yeah, it's that flexibility. That is a great thing for the Browns to have in Amari Cooper, and sometimes you get him on the outside, sometimes you move him inside, gets him a free release. He's able to get off the line of scrimmage, not get jammed, has two-way goes, and that takes advantage of his unbelievable route running and separation skills. Finally, Kevin Stefanski from down at those meetings want to share some takeaways on the play of rookie James Hudson, who was thrust in the action last year both at right tackle and left tackle for the Browns.
I think James did a nice job playing for us in some tough moments. We did not think James was going to have to play very much this year, and then we had injuries early to Hub, as you know, and Jed Wills goes down. So James got thrust in there, put him in some tough spots, but he battled. He did a nice job. And I think what I appreciate about James is I get to see him work with Coach Callahan, with Scott Peters. I see his development from a technical standpoint. He has the right mental makeup. He has the right character, if you will. So I see him taking a step this year.
James Hudson had only played one season of tackle at Cincinnati after transferring from Michigan, where he's a defensive lineman. And was thrust in. He's taken the teaching well, and I think James Hudson's another guy I see around the building all the time, putting in the work to get better, to get stronger, to get his body better, to be ready to play in the event that the Browns need him. Jack Conklin's not ready at the start of the season, but it turns out typically your swing tackle is going to make some starts for you no matter what. And that's where Hudson is slated, at least as we head into this season here, as kind of that backup right tackle, left tackle for the Cleveland Browns, and the guy that showed a lot of promise in that rookie season, and I think he's only going to get more and more comfortable as things go.
Yeah, and, I mean, what we've talked about is stacking your roster in the event, God forbid, someone goes down. James Hudson, great swing tackle, really developing into a nice player. I don't want to say great yet, but he's developing into a nice swing player and a nice guy off of your bench. Dearness Johnson, the sixth man in the running back room.
Yep.
I mean, could start. At the quarterback position, Jacoby Brissett. We talked about him earlier and his value to this football team. You've got a lot of guys on the offensive football side that are in the background that are going to be expected. These guys will play at some point. They played last year. They played the year before with COVID issues. These guys are going to play. You got to have people that you can rely on and that know your system. And we talked about, again, the whole coaching staff's back. There was a minor tweak on the special team side and on the defensive line side. But otherwise, everybody's back. And that's the third straight year you've got everybody together, number one. Number two, you're returning all these pieces and parts from your team, not just starters, but also key reserves coming back. Everybody knows the system. Everybody knows where they got to be. That can only help when you bring in a brand-new quarterback and have to tweak the system a little bit. Everybody's on the same page because everybody's already done what they have for the last 3 years.
And that's important, that continuity, and something we haven't had. And I think I go back to, the rookie minicamp when Hudson was the only offensive lineman and basically got that boot camp with Bill Callahan, and he's going to continue that learning and continue his education in the league. Before we go to break, we'll take a look at the NFC South opponents for the Cleveland Browns here. They'll play everybody in the NFC South this year. The NFL posted this at 2:16. Off-season craziness, and it's just a series of pictures with some of the stuff that's happened. So it's March 28th today, right? So 20 days ago, this all began. On March 8th, Aaron Rodgers signs his extension with the Packers. Russell Wilson traded to the Broncos. March 9th, Carson Wentz traded to the Commanders. March 10th, Khalil Mack traded to the Chargers. March 12th, Amari Cooper traded to the Browns. March 13th, Tom Brady announces his return to the NFL. March 14th, J.C. Jackson signs with the Chargers. March 5th, 16th, Chandler Jones signs with the Raiders. Von Miller signs with the Bills. March 17th, Allen Robinson signs with the Rams. Devontae Adams traded to the Raiders. March 18th, Juju Smith-Schuster signs with the Chiefs. March 21st, Matt Ryan traded to the Colts. March 22nd, Zadarius Smith signs with the Vikings. March 23rd, Tyreek Hill traded to the Dolphins. And also we know the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson. Just a wild time here in the NFL. All right, when we come back, we'll take a look around the NFC South, who's in, who's out on these various rosters, the moves that they have made, and take a look at what that means for the Browns who play this division in 2022. Rumpke Waste and Recycling is a family-owned and operated company. Whether you join them as a customer or as an employee, you'll become a part of the family. Visit rumpke.com to learn more. Gibby and I want to take a look now at the NFC South. Let's take a look because, again, we will go against all four of these teams this season, the Bucs, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. So let's just take a look at what these teams have done this offseason, and we'll start that with a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so from the Buccaneers, we'll start with key additions to this football team, and then we'll go through kind of all their moves, and then we'll take a look at some of the notable losses. And I think, do you get to call it an addition? Because clearly the most important thing that has happened with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is the fact that Tom Brady announced he will come out of retirement this season.
Yeah, I don't know why that's not a notable addition and why Tampa Bay got a B+ from CBS over the weekend.
It is kind of surprising to me because, and a lot of the big moves they made involved keeping core players. And so Brady comes out of retirement. He is back. Leonard Fournette re-signs on a 3-year, $21 million deal. You've got Chris Godwin receiving the franchise tag. He would later sign a 3-year, $60 million deal with $40 million guaranteed at signing. Brashad Perriman re-signs on a 1-year deal, former Cleveland Brown receiver. Tackle Josh Wells re-signs to a free agent deal. Guard Aaron Stinney re-signs. Center Ryan Jensen, this is a big one, 3-year, $39 million deal that includes $23 million guaranteed. Cornerback Carlton Davis re-signs, 3 years, $45 million, including $30 million guaranteed. So when Brady comes back, you're obviously able to keep your core together. Now, who came in from the outside? 3 big ones. 1, receiver Russell Gage, who had a very nice season for Atlanta last year when they were without services of Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones had moved on. Kyle Pitts was the leading receiver along with Gage. They acquire a very good guard, Shaq Mason, in a trade with the New England Patriots for a 2022 fifth-round pick, a trade that left a lot of people scratching their heads in New England. Then finally, reunited, Logan Ryan, former New England Patriot, reunited with Brady there down in Tampa Bay. So that's who they've added or retained from their team from a year ago. So let's take a look now at who they lost as we go and look at that. And the big one would have been, obviously, it would have been Tom Brady. If Tom Brady had not come back, this is a fundamentally different team, organization, and their prospects are very, very different. So names that you would know, they lost Ronald Jones, the running back. He signed with the Chiefs. Tight end O.J. Howard, former first-rounder, signed with the Bills. They lose 2 guards, Alex Kappa, who signs with the Bengals in a big deal, and then Ali Marpet, who retired, their guard as well. Guys that are still unsigned. Oh, also safety Jordan Whitehead signed a big deal with the Jets, starting safety for them. Other starters who remain unsigned, Rob Gronkowski, defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul, defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh, cornerback Richard Sherman, who joined the team in the middle of that season. Also pass-catching running back Giovanni Bernard and backup quarterback Blaine Gabbert. So the biggest losses there, Kappa and Whitehead from their starting lineup, but this is a team that maintained where it wanted to be. The big news getting, obviously, I think, Brady back and keeping Godwin on that franchise tag. So this is a team that, again, still Super Bowl contenders, and they will be, if not the favorites, they will be one of the top 3 teams to be favored in the NFC, and there seems to be a clear delineation with the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, the Green Bay Packers led by Aaron Rodgers, and the Bucs and Tom Brady.
So they lost 2 guards, but they replaced 1. So they're down 1 offensive lineman.
Yep.
But you get Fournette back. I don't know when Godwin's going to be able to return. That'll be the key.
Yep,
but you
coming
still
off
have
the
Mike
ACL.
Evans, and
Still have Mike Evans.
and you have Russell Gage.
Right.
You got Perryman.
You have Tom Brady.
And you have Tom Brady at the end of the day. I don't know who's playing tight end for them.
Well, right now they would have Cameron Brate would be the tight end, but they're obviously, I think, expecting and hoping to get Rob Gronkowski back. Which brings us now to the New Orleans Saints, Gibbe, and they were given a B- here. It says New Orleans deserves credit for getting under the salary cap after being $75 million over the threshold in February. They were not able to retain two great players and stars for them, tackle Terron Armstead and safety Marcus Williams. The Saints, of course, were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes before he chose the Browns. And so we'll go ahead and take a look at what this team has done in terms of the additions and the losses, retaining trades, all of those things. So the biggest kind of retain, I think, starts at the quarterback position because it is Jameis Winston re-signing a 2-year, $28 million deal that includes $15.2 fully guaranteed. And he was 5-2 as a starter for them last year. Where he's at in the recovery from the ACL, we don't know yet, but he says he's ahead and should be good to go. They re-signed wide receiver Tre'Quan Smith. That happened today, actually. 2-year, $6 million deal, $2 million guaranteed, max value of $10 million. Not a big one. They brought in defensive end Contavious Street. They signed safety Daniel Sorensen, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, and that helmet-to-helmet hit on Hollywood Higgins. And then they signed Marcus May of the Jets, a 3-year deal worth $28.5 million with $15 million guaranteed. Now, why is the Marcus May one notable? Because one Marcus in, another Marcus out. Marcus Williams, safety, signing a big deal with the Baltimore Ravens. He chose the Ravens, and that was a big one. Big one. And they got worse. Mar is a good player. He will slide into that starting spot, but has not had the career so far that Marcus Williams has had. They also lose Terron Armstead, considered one of the best left tackles in the game. He goes to the Dolphins on a huge deal, and that was a big loss. And Armstead had said if Watson had gone to the Saints, he would have stayed with the Saints. He does not. He leaves as well. Tight end Garrett Griffin signed a minor deal with the Lions. Running back Ty Montgomery, a very minor deal with the Patriots. Trevor Siemian signs with the Bears to be a backup. They're also still without kind of role players. Kenny Stills. Quan Alexander, good linebacker, who hasn't been the same since some of his injuries. Cornerback P.J. Williams and safety Jeff Heath. So this is a team that on paper right now you'd probably say second in the division, but are they a serious playoff contender? I don't know. They should get Michael Thomas back. And hopefully he can regain the form that he had before missing all of last season with that foot and ankle injury that just really has cost him a season and a half.
Being any kind of playoff team or in contention for a playoff spot.
I would be surprised.
Here in this article,
but they're the ones that have maybe after the Bucs the best chance, just not a whole lot to get very excited about there. Which brings us to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, right now, we really don't know who's going to play quarterback for them. Sam Darnold struggled so much that they brought in Cam Newton. He even started some games for them. But they've been aggressive in free agency a little bit. So what have they done so far? But quarterback remains the biggest issue. They have re-signed DJ Moore, their wide receiver, giving him a contract extension, $61.9 million in new money, $41.6 in guarantees, keeps him under contract through the 2025 season. He is a stud number one receiver, so they go and reward him. They sign former Brown Austin Corbett, 3-year deal worth $29.25 million to be a starting guard.
That coming when he got traded from here.
Not me, but he was a starting guard on the Super Bowl champion Rams. And when you're a Super Bowl champion, you often get paid in free agency, and he did just that. Another big re-signing for them, cornerback Dante Johnson, 3 years, $31.5 million. They also brought in safety Xavier Woods on a 3-year, $15.75 million deal. Some minor ones there. Dante Foreman, running back, a 1-year contract. This one's not minor. Our guy Hollywood Higgins signing with the Carolina Panthers as well. Should have a nice role in the slot for that team. They've got DJ Moore on one side, Robbie Anderson. They've got Terrace Marshall from LSU, and so he joins a very talented wide receiver room. Center Bradley Bozeman on a 1-year deal. Matthew Ioannidis, defensive tackle, on a 1-year deal. Marcus Haynes, a defensive end, on a 2-year deal. Corey Littleton on a 1-year deal, the linebacker. Cornerback Rashawn Melvin, former Brown Justin Burris, the safety. But here's one, special teams. Johnny Hecker, the all-world punter, Super Bowl champion from the Rams, signed a 3-year deal. They also signed former Brown kicker Zane Gonzalez to a 2-year, $4.5 million deal.
I'm just going to throw it out there. If your big news is you're signing specialists.
Not great, but hey, we need some specialists over here.
Oh, okay. I understand, but if you're dropping big money on specialists.
Yes.
Yikes.
I hear you. Who have they lost so far? Defensive tackle Daquan Jones to the Bills, but the big one, Hassan Reddick, double-digit sack guy for the Carolina Panthers. He goes to the Eagles. Stephon Gilmore is unsigned, but a very talented corner, as is A.J. Bouye. So a couple of corners out of there. They lost center Matt Paradis as well. Cam Newton, as I said, is still out there. Linebacker Jermaine Carter Jr. to the Chiefs. Running back Amir Abdullah to the Raiders. So didn't have what I would call necessarily a great offseason. And the question, they still have no idea who's playing quarterback for them. They want McCaffrey back healthy. They've got a nice wide receiving trio.
But your coach is on the hot seat. There are
Absolutely.
If he even should have been able to come back this year.
Absolutely. Reddick, though, big blow to the pass rush, and I bet they will go ahead and draft a pass rusher to go along with Brian Burns. But Matt Rule, they're saying, is on the hot seat there in Carolina, and that brings us to the Falcons, a team that does not look anywhere near ready to compete. Obviously, the biggest loss for the Atlanta Falcons this offseason, Matt Ryan traded to the Colts. Russell Gage goes to the Buccaneers. Dante Fowler Jr., the pass rusher of the Cowboys. Tight end Hayden Hurst joins the Bengals. Duron Harmon to the Raiders. They lost their long snapper, Josh Harris, to the Chargers. Linebacker Foya Oluokun to the Jags. But lots of guys not being brought back there, including A.J. McCarron. And in terms of who they brought in Atlanta, it's not really a big one. They re-signed Cordero Patterson, who was kind of did it all for their offense. That was a good move, but nothing major here. In fact, the biggest deal that they signed in terms of money, they handed out a 5-year, $24.25 million contract extension to Young Ho Koo, the kicker, $11.5 million guaranteed. They brought in Casey Hayward, 2 years, $11 million. Jake Matthews, the offensive tackle, 3-year extension, $52.5 million over the first 3 years, reduces his 2022 cap number. They signed former Brown Kaderil Hodge, former Chief running back Damian Williams. But the big one, the guy they're turning it over to right now, Marcus Mariota, 2-year deal. He will earn $6.75 million this season, just $1.75 guaranteed, $5 million signing bonus, $12 million option for 2023. So Mariota on a kind of a 1-year prove-it deal. We'll see how that goes, but he will be the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons now that the Matt Ryan era is over. The Falcons do not seem like they are in a good spot. Now, if you drop Jimmy G into Carolina, I think Jimmy G in Carolina with those receivers and Christian McCaffrey, that could be an offense that is intriguing. Their defense last year was number 2 in yards, so they were pretty solid. But it does feel like the Falcons, no playoff aspirations. The Panthers, Jimmy G, I think, gives them a chance to maybe be a wild card team, but without that.
Get out. Your love of him. No way.
What do you mean, no way?
No.
Why not?
This team's hot garbage.
They were the number 2 defense in the league last year on a per yards basis, on a yards per game basis.
And where did that get them? What was
They had no quarterback. If you have McCaffrey and you have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and Hollywood and Terrace Marshall, that's a pretty good. You have the makings of a pretty good offense. And if you have a good defense, why can't you? Listen, the Saints aren't anything to write home about at this point. The Falcons certainly aren't. The Bucs are going to win that division. I'm just saying, if they get Jimmy G, could they make the playoffs in the NFC? The NFC is not that loaded. It's not.
Correct. No. If you're a middle-of-the-road team, you're in contention. They are not a middle-of-the-road team.
There are 3 wild cards. So as you look at it right now, right?
Yeah.
I would say you feel like Rams, Niners, Cardinals could all make the playoffs. That's 3 in the West. It doesn't feel like the Seahawks are in playoff contention at all. Drew Lock is currently their quarterback. You go to the NFC East, the Cowboys are the prohibitive favorites. It doesn't feel like the Giants are knocking on the playoff door. Now, the Commanders with Carson Wentz, maybe, but I mean, you're certainly not penning or penciling them into the playoffs right now. And the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, you're not doing that either. Although I like the addition of Hassan Reddick, and the Eagles, I think, are a well-run organization. The NFC North, Packers favored to win the division. I think the Vikings feel like they have a good shot to make the playoffs in the NFC, and then you've got the Lions and the Bears, who don't feel like playoff teams. So in the South, coming in second in the South, if you can have a decent record, I think you've got a chance. Now, having to play the AFC North, I think, is a tough matchup for that division. I do. I think that's a tough matchup for them. But the Bucs are still the class of that division and will be as long as they've got, of course, Tom Brady at quarterback. And that was the biggest news in the whole division, is that Tom Brady is back.
Is the market dried up for Jimmy G? because A, they don't know when he's going to be able to play, and B, just the track record being what it is?
I don't know, but the market, it feels like, is Carolina. They're not trading him to Seattle.
No.
So Carolina feels like the place that he might end up. And if he does, I think it gives them certainly an opportunity to be competitive. Absolutely. Hey,
I think you're a pipe dream. Their coaching's not good.
Fine, but the last 2 seasons the guy played the full season, he went to a Super Bowl and to an NFC Championship game.
Okay.
Just saying.
So he can get you there. He just can't win you anything.
All right, let's just. I'd love. Now we feel like we've got the guy that can get you there and win things, with Deshaun Watson. But thumb in your nose at Jimmy G. I feel like this is unnecessary. It feels like unnecessary hate. So that's our look at the NFC South. We'll do that the rest of the week. Kind of go through every opponent on the Browns' schedule and tell you what we've seen, what their offseason's been like. We'll talk to some people about that as well. All right, when we come back, so much more to come. That's for you, Beau Bishop. So much more to come here on Cleveland Browns Daily. All right, we'll leave you with a little teaser. This is coming from Mary Kay Cabot. She said there's mutual interest between the Browns and Jarvis Landry to return to Cleveland. His new agent, Roosevelt Barnes, said that's his home, and he loves it there. Also went on to say that the Deshaun Watson being there makes it more intriguing for him. So something to Something to monitor.
I
and
forgot that he fired Clutch.
Yeah. One thing I've always said, I want Jarvis Landry to finish his playing career in the brown and orange. So
Same.
if that ends up happening, nobody will be happier than yours truly. All right, everybody, thanks for being with us here today on Cleveland Browns Daily. We've got a big week lined up for you, so don't miss it. The next level is next here on ESPN Cleveland.